Welcome to the Women's Leadership Lunch Series. I'm Elizabeth Coran, an area financial controller at Sherwin-Williams and a proud double alumna of Cleveland State. I'm delighted to introduce today's discussion surrounding the many hats we women wear as managers, mothers, wives, daughters, cleaning ladies, chefs, and so on, and the pressure that comes with fulfilling all of these roles. Our speakers today are the sort of Wonder Women who have figured out how to pull off this balancing act while making it appear effortless. Maria Spangler is the Director of Community Engagement for Sherwin-Williams and manages grant making for the Sherwin-Williams Foundation. If you work at Sherwin-Williams, you've come across Maria in some capacity as she seems to be everywhere, having a positive impact on everything. In addition to her work at Sherwin, Maria also serves on the boards of Cuyahoga County Public Library, University Circle Incorporated, and the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. In case you're not suitably impressed with everything else she has going on, Maria has also managed to pass the Ohio bar exam. I don't know how she does it. Liz Gillmore is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Benesch Law. Prior to Benesch, Liz spent 10 years as a senior HR leader at Sherwin-Williams and has also worked for other large global companies in Northeast Ohio, including Timken Steel and ABB Automation. Under Liz's leadership, Benesch rolled out an industry-leading parental leave program in 2019 to lessen the pressure employees feel in balancing work and family. So she really gets it. Like all of you, I am looking forward to finding out how Liz and Maria achieve this balance in their personal and professional lives. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. It was so nice to hear the introduction, and it's so exciting to be here with all of you today. I know there are many friends in the room, certainly lots of Sherwin-Williams employees and alums. So we appreciate this opportunity to talk with you today. CSU is such an important institution in our community. I'm also a double alumna of CSU from Cleveland Marshall and Levin. And knowing everything I know today, I would go back and do it again. So thanks to CSU and its commitment to our community and to the wide range of value it provides to employers and students and families. Liz and I are going to chat with you. We're going to chat with each other, and we've sort of joked this is not going to be much unlike the chats that we have, but with an audience. And so we want you to please leverage the chat function. We have someone monitoring that to forward questions. With such a big group, it'll be hard to unmute. Please feel free to use that, and we'll look forward to answering as many questions as possible. Before I turn it over to Liz for her introductory remarks, I just want to, remind everybody that we're all sort of dealing with our own stuff right now, and we certainly, Liz and I, don't have all the answers or even close. We want you to know that we'll share with our perspective today, but certainly our perspective is ours. And in every situation, like every woman and every person is sort of navigating all of these things, most especially today, and what we're dealing with in their own way. When we envisioned this session, it was pre-pandemic. So it's all the more timely given what's happened since we envisioned this session. So with that, I'll turn it over to Liz to say a few things about herself, and then we'll sort of get into the conversation. If you're comfortable, please feel free to turn your camera on. It's hard sometimes to talk to a screen of boxes with names or still photos. So would love to see you if it works for you. Thanks. Liz?
I'll look at these faces. Thank you guys for sharing your smiles with us. Maria, Elizabeth, CSU, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's I woke up this morning thinking, what do you say? I'm learning every day and trying to figure out this game of balance in life, but I'm excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you for the opportunity. And I know not only do I hope I can share some things that have worked for me, but learn a little something along the way. To tell you guys a little bit about myself, Elizabeth, thank you for that intro. I've been a human resource professional for a little over 20 years. My career has taken me through 4 different organizations. And so I've had the opportunity to grow, evolve, and change through those transitions. And in the last 10 years, had the opportunity, I had a spreadsheet that kind of had 2 kids coming one at a time. But I was fortunate enough to be blessed with twins. So I've got 8-year-old son and daughter. My son has some more significant learning challenges. And so navigating that process. And then also had the opportunity to care for my father during a 4-year battle with cancer that he passed away from in 2018. And so this is a topic that really hits close to home because, especially as I think back on the last decade, it's been challenging to think about how you balance all of these shifting, changing priorities that I think we face as women, as mothers, as daughters, but also as professionals, and have worked so hard to build a career and figure out what that's going to look like as you go through these changes in life. So I'm excited to talk with you guys today.
Thanks, Liz. A little bit more about my personal life. I have a wonderful husband of 7 years, Mike, and I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. So we're navigating kindergarten through this, which has been a unique experience and not like anyone that I would have expected. But I have said many times, I think my little kids are going to have really good memories of this time and all the time we spent together. So there have definitely been some silver linings in this really challenging time that we've all been living through. Historic. I wonder what we're going to say, or what they'll say about us in decades. But I think we're all getting through with our own families in our own way. So I just want to throw this out to Liz to start. What does work-life balance mean to you? And is it even a practical goal?
So this is one I've really thought a lot about. Last night when I was going to bed, I was thinking about this. And when I went to Ohio State and I interned at a financial services firm, and I was recruiting people to step into a 100% commission insurance sales job. And the benefit of that job, it was a hard gig, but I had the opportunity to get exposure to a lot of the coaching that we gave these folks who were facing no time after time. And if they couldn't sell something, they couldn't eat. And so a lot of coaching was invested in these folks. And there was a long series that they had titled Life by Design versus Life by Default. And that is something that I feel fortunate I was exposed to at a young age. And it really has been a cornerstone for me in my own personal ideology. When I think about work-life balance, I really go back to life by design versus life by default. And I think it's important to think about wherever you are in life, what do you need and what do you want? And how do you prioritize appropriately? I picture, sometimes when you think of work-life balance, I picture this person juggling balls, or this person carrying all these plates and trying not to make one fall. And for me, I think that's a really misleading visual image that I get about work-life balance, because that's not realistic. Something's up, something's down at all times. It's really, for me, about prioritization and thinking about what do we need? What do we want? What does my family need? What do they want? What does my job need? What do they want? What do I need? What do I want? And how do I prioritize? Recognizing that you make a choice that you own to put certain things down at certain times, and you pick it back up when you can. But we all only have so much capacity, and we have to be able to think about, what is needed, what is wanted, and what is really extra at this point in time. And I know for me, it shifts quite a bit, and the importance of understanding my standing in the various areas of my life has also been important in thinking about work-life balance. Do I know and do I have the sense that I need to step up as a mother? I've been traveling a lot, bedtime is getting cryy, and I know my kids need more from me. I need to shift. Do I know, I've had a lot of opportunity to be there for my dad when he was sick, and a couple timelines are slipping and I need to step up at work. Okay, I need to shift. And so I think understanding where you also stand in the various roles that you play in your life, and where do you have some capital you can spend, and where do you need to invest, is also part of that balance. It's a multi-layered balance of what do you need, what do you want, where are you standing in the various roles that you play in life. And sometimes we just have to respond and step into where we're needed, where we're falling below. But I never want to lose track of kind of that life by design versus life by default. I think it's so easy to have our priorities set for us, to always feel like we're at the short end of the stick and exhausted from trying to chase what everyone else is wanting or needing from us. And so whenever I feel that shift has happened for me, I try to step back and say, if this is my life, I have a responsibility to design it and own it and live it. This is my one precious day that I get here, and tomorrow it's gone. So what do I really want to have happen? And for me, that can be a very grounding self-discussion that helps me get clearer about how I juggle everything on my plate so that I can go to bed at night and feel as good as possible. What are your thoughts, Maria?
I think I love the life by design. You and I are both planners, right? Oldest child syndrome is a real thing. You both external and internal self pressures to be a certain thing by a certain time with a certain title, whatever it is. And and I similarly had my plan with my family, and when I would be focused on my career, and then when I would focus on perhaps a partnership and kids. And I think early on thinking that they would just all keep adding on, right? And then having more of a realization that that the pie of my energy and my focus and my ability to be good at something is only so big. And so how that was going to have to be flexible, and to let some of those things go about where, the dream to be Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when I was, a young pre-law student, versus what then I really found to be most fulfilling for me as a wife and a mother, and how I prioritize those things, and then how my career fell into that. I was just chatting with someone who is pregnant here at Sherwin with her first, and so much anxiety around these jobs that we have that are so intense, and like myself, also a very visible job, and so worried about what that other side was going to look like. And I just said, your relationship with your job is going to change, and I can't tell you what it's going to feel like, because but I promise you that some of this stuff that you're worried about, it's not going to be important when you certainly have a little life that you have to take care of every day, but also when you are sleep deprived and all the other things, right? So So yeah, I think life by design makes a lot of sense. I know I certainly, without calling it that, agree and have done that. But I have been perhaps too rigid and had to learn some hard lessons about being flexible with myself, and certainly with some grace for myself. But then, the pandemic, I think, has forced us all to sort of stop, and refocus some things. Early on, especially, I found myself letting my kids do, whatever they wanted, whether they were dressed as Iron Man to, go to Target or whatever. And I just wanted them to have some joy, and I was so worried about this time for them, and so I let them have leeway that I probably wouldn't have ever done but for this pandemic. And I've learned lessons about being flexible with everyone in my life, most especially, I think, my kids, who, kids keep us humble. They don't care what your title is, or what, or how much you made, or how much your bonus was. My kids still expect me to wipe them and take care of their needs, right? And so, and I love that I get to do all of those things, then come here. I often think when I'm sitting in an important executive's office, they have no idea that I was like up to my elbows in poop this morning, right? But I also kind of laugh to myself and think, I'm glad that I have all those experiences, and it makes my life richer. It makes me a better person, for everyone who I serve every day. I also want to say really quickly, I see Stephanie has a little person joining us. If anybody has, anybody, a dog, a cat, a little person that you're keeping out of the window, please do not worry about that. This is a group of people. If anything, kids on Zooms have been a highlight of this time. So, Liz, what are some of those lessons that maybe you have learned along the way, either pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, that you had to, that helped inform sort of keeping some of that balance for you and your family?
So when you were talking, I was thinking about, we say in adult learning, as we're trying to teach new skills, new systems, new whatever, the hardest part is not learning something new, it's unlearning what you did. And I think when I look at the evolution of my life, and especially in this pandemic, the hardest part, sitting on your couch and binging Netflix is truly not that hard. And to a large degree, that's the best thing we can do. But we've had to give up what we thought this time was going to mean. I was just writing a memo to my firm, that I know as we go into the holidays, it's not going to look like what you thought it was going to look like. It's hard to not have the interactions that we want to have. And I know for me, this has been a year where I think the biggest challenge has been the internal fight I've had about what I wanted this to be versus what this is. I think that's also true in my career, as I've moved and evolved certain ways, especially as I was coming up and kind of looking at jobs at the top and thought, gosh, one day I want to do that. And as that gets closer and closer, and you look at it and you go, wow, that's what that's going to look like. That's what that's going to mean. I don't know that that's me anymore. And I think that constant recognition of what you thought it was going to be and what it is, and how, what I've really been trying to work on is the amount of self-inflicted pain that can produce. And to just be more open to, this is going to be what it's going to be. We need to find our joy through it. And more open to the fact that I might change. I might have been moving towards one direction and then recognize that doesn't feel like me anymore. Or I have something shifted. I have different priorities. I want different things. And sometimes I know for me, it's hard to let go. It's hard to acknowledge a shift in myself, especially one that might not be viewed as classically popular, like I think especially if you're a type A achiever, you want to be doing things that are, Instagram worthy. And there are so many times where I've said like, that doesn't feel like me anymore. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be there. And this year for me has been a year of trying to honor what's really happening inside of me, what I really feel, and recognizing where we need to let go and be more accepting. When I joked around about my 2 kids in my spreadsheet, I legitimately freaked out that I was going to have 2 kids at once. I wanted 2 kids. I just didn't want to do it all. I didn't want to be 3 people all at one time. And I feel like life regularly takes me to task and reminding me that I need to be more open to the journey that was meant for me, and be less concerned with what I thought that journey should look like. And this year has been just another good reminder of that. And, we've talked about, fortunately, my family has been healthy. So very grateful for that. And we've had so many silver linings that as we're months down the road, I can reflect back on now and find gratitude for. And so it really has been a blessing in so many ways. But that doesn't mean it's been an easy road to get there. What about you? What's pandemic? And as you think back on 2020, what do you think about?
Yeah, well, first I want to mention, to remind everyone that Megan is watching the chat. So please tell us what you want to talk about, questions, comments, your own wisdom as well. So please share. We appreciate that. I want to tell a quick funny story about, I have a flip side of the whole twins thing. So my plan was to get pregnant with twins because I wanted 2 kids, and it's much more efficient if you just have them at the same time, in my mind. I prayed and prayed and prayed for twins. Given the makeup of our families, it was possible. So I had this in my head that I could pray it hard enough. And wouldn't you know, my little first bundle of joy, Roman Theodore, was born at 11 pounds, 9 ounces. And I can only conclude that God said, you don't pray for things like that. But if you are going to, I will give you 1 baby the size of 2. So I was on the flip side of the planning. But yeah, this pandemic has changed so much. My big curveball, and to be very vulnerable, was I was furloughed for most of April and all of May, and it knocked me back hard, really hard. It was shocking and disappointing and embarrassing, and so much was uncertain in those early days. What were we dealing with? How long would this go on? We've been very fortunate here at Sherwin that we have actually done very well, and I was brought back very quickly. But there was some really hard decisions made early on because we didn't know what we were dealing with. And while that feels like a blip now because of what we have come through and where we are all these several months later at this point, I was all of a sudden home, at the snap of my fingers, home with my kids all day, every day, and with no place to go. And it certainly helped me appreciate their daycare teachers and their teachers for the kind of work and patience and love that folks like that have for kids, and to watch them grow. I ate terribly. I drank too much Chardonnay, and then had to come out of it. I had to figure out how to get over the wallowing phase, the grieving phase, and to start marching forward again, even though I wasn't sure what I was marching forward to. And you know, I found a way. While it took longer than I probably would have thought that I needed to. I learned a lot about how myself and my job are not the same thing. We are so wrapped up in our jobs. I happen to have a job that is very visible, and lots of people associate me with what I do. And so I probably even have a little more. But at the end of the day, we were able to step back with my family and kind of say, what if I don't go back? What if my husband loses it? We started doing all these what ifs, which were scary, but at the same time, we're able to show us we'll be okay. Like, we have enough. We will, you know, had a conversation with Tom Hopkins, actually, who most of you know, or many of you know, I should say. And he said, this is not existential for you. And for lots of folks, this has been an existential situation, right? This is a challenge for you that you will get through. And I needed to hear that. I wanted him to feel sorry for me, but he told me what I wanted to hear that I didn't want to hear, but I needed to hear. And that was there's another side. And every day I think I say at least once to someone, there's another side of this. This is I got tired of hearing people say this is the new normal. This is a temporary normal. This is not a new normal. This is a temporary situation we are in. It's much longer than we want it to be, but we will have another side of this. And we have to remember that this is an opportunity for growth in a way that none of us wanted. And we're all growing in our own different ways, but it is an opportunity to grow and to appreciate the people, the things, the very simple blessings and the very simple things that we all really need for meaning through this life that we have.
So Maria, I'm kind of following the chat here, and I've got a question for you. So when you were laid off from Sherwin, so some of the questions that are happening are about, you know, and we're seeing it right now, a large number of women are leaving the workforce. In September, specifically, you saw a female spike as children were going back to Zoom school and needed to be managed, and you know, women are taking on that responsibility and exiting the workforce. Did you ever consider exiting the workforce or kind of throwing it in and making a different choice? And what advice would you give to women who are saying this balancing act is getting really hard? I've got, you know, whether it's caring for aging elderly parents, young children, you know, many of us are the sandwich generation and we're squished between both. And then the pressures are coming in at the side of work. What would you say to someone who's thinking about, you know, it's time to just bow out of the workforce?
So I will say for my family, and again, the caveat is, you know, I have a partner and we're both working, and hats off. I haven't said this yet. Single parents are heroes, most especially through all of this. I grew up with a single parent, and now as a parent, I appreciate that much more. So I will say that for the Spanglers, all options were on the table because we didn't know how long this was going to go on. We had made the decision a long time ago as a family to live way below our means. And so we continue to do that. And because we prioritized my kids' education and saving for that. And so I will buy a used car so that I can make a bigger deposit into the 529. We made those decisions like before we had kids. And so my husband's got a good job as well. But while I was furloughed, he was busier than ever. He's in low-income housing. And so there was a lot happening with supporting their residents, ensuring the safety of their employees. It's a national company. And so, so I will say that all options were on the table, and it's hard. You don't want to be a statistic, but at the same time, we all have to make the decisions that are right for our family. And I remember Tom's words, this is not existential for you. This is a time that we need to get through and take care of our families. And for me, my kids' needs were the most important thing to me, that they were healthy and happy, and I needed to be present for them. And so that furlough time was a bit of a gift, as hard as it was. For those 7 weeks, while I was dealing with my own self-talk, they had the time of their lives, because mom was there all day long. She was on a constant schedule of, cooking and cleaning up. But she was there all the time for them. And that is what they will remember about this time. And it's so hard, because that statistic, those job numbers from September break my heart, but I get it. It's even those of us who have partners, I'm still mom at the end of the day. My husband can be as helpful as possible, but I am still mom. And I am so keeping track of how much milk there is and bread and the doctor's appointments and, the papers for school and registering Roman and the uniform, all those things. I felt like I needed to be there. And so all options were on the table. I think that, it's not answering the question, but you need to do what's right for you in the moment, perhaps with the information you have, and know that that's not temporary, or that's not permanent either. If someone does choose to step out because that's the right thing for their family or their own mental or physical health right now, it's temporary. And there's another side of this.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, Liz, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in to share sort of the flip side of Sydney's question about women leaving the workforce. And Liz, I think this probably is a great question for you, about the message you might have for employers who need to learn or are right now trying to learn to be more flexible with parents and caregivers, which generally tends to be women.
Yeah. And I joined Benesch 2 years ago. Prior to joining Benesch, I've always worked in manufacturing-based businesses, and there's a different orientation towards your workforce, because a lot of it, you've got a lot of hourly jobs, and there's a view of like, hey, there's a seasonality, we're going up and down, this is really a headcount game. Since I've now been at a law firm, it's interesting, and I joke around, what we sell are people's minds, and everyone is incredibly gifted at what they do, and we really have a very snowflake mentality, and we recognize that everyone is very special, and we're very fortunate to employ them. The legal industry is very competitive, and the war for talent is very real. And so it's been very interesting to shift into an organization that is very progressive. You mentioned at the beginning last year, I had the opportunity to be part of an effort to move to a 26-week paternity leave policy with 20 of those paid here in our organization. I did 2 babies at one time. I got 4 paid weeks and I was back on 12 weeks in one day. Still want to talk about that, Sherwin, but you know, it's and there are days where I do notice a little bit of that. The younger me thought I would never be the woman who was like, well, I did it this way. Girlfriend, you can too. And really recognizing that, yeah, but that was really hard and it doesn't have to be that way. And what can we do differently? As we've gone into this pandemic, we've adopted a firm-wide workforce policy called Work from Where You Work Best. We have unlimited access to come into our offices. Our offices are very traditionally designed. Most people have an office with a door, or you can work from home. And part of that is we do recognize that our people are facing so many challenges. And I really think employers, the one thing I'm excited and nervous and curious about is what the world of work is going to look like when we're done with this pandemic, because people have been introduced to a level of flexibility and employers have had to trust, and they've seen productivity continue to happen. And then on the other side of this, employees are going to say, I showed up for you when you needed me. My kids Zoomed, I worked, the dog went out, everything happened. But now I'm asking it to be a choice that you offer me, not something you have to do, because we're all going to get sick when we're in the same room together. And I expect that the world of work is going to change and evolve. And I hope that it's in ways that makes it easier and more inclusive for women specifically to be able to continue to participate. What I've come to recognize for myself since having children is that my most valuable commodity isn't even time, it's just energy. You know, at some point you just flop on the couch, and there's still more hours in the day. You know, my motivation to myself is I have as many hours in the day as Beyonce, but you know, it's energy. At some point you're just tired. And so I'm grateful to be able to flip laundry in between meetings and to be there to receive the Instacart when it comes so that I can order stuff that needs to get into the fridge. And so I'll be really interested to see how employers step up to the opportunity. Right now, a lot of employers are giving because they have to. And I know the conversation is going to switch to, we want you to be more flexible because we need you to. And I hope that that creates a more inclusive world of work where whatever the constraint that you have is, that you can better meet. And I saw in the chat, it's no longer work-life balance, it's work-life integration. And the one thing that I've noticed is that I used to have a drive downtown and a drive home that was kind of a compression, decompression time for me. And now I don't have that. And I think because my kids are used to making an appearance on a Zoom call and other things, that people are kind of like, oh, I hear your kids in the background. It's 6 o'clock. That's just another day. I saw your kids at noon, so this has to be an okay time too. You know, I get to flip laundry in the middle of the day, and then I might have to take a call at 6 o'clock. And I do think the lines get blurry, and we have to recognize that there's a give and a take. And when we ask for more flexibility, we need to be comfortable with the reciprocal side of that. But I am excited to see, and I'm hopeful that a lot of employers recognize that employee engagement, employee retention can really be positively impacted by recognizing the productivity that can still happen while giving your people some flexibility.
Yeah, I would, we hear a lot about here at Sherwin, where we have a very palatable culture that is a very real and strong thing, and a reason that people come and work here, that we need to get people back together so that we don't lose that. And I don't completely subscribe to that. I do. So I'm in my office right now, and I have a little bit. So I work here and at home. We have that ability. And I kind of like the mix. For things like this, I'd rather be sitting in my office than with my neighbor, leaf blowing next door out the window, right? So it's nice to have this mix, but I think that our leadership and those who are in positions to make determinations about what post-COVID workplace looks like need to understand that culture also is informed by employees feeling supported in all the aspects of their life. I am happy to do things early and late when I'm at home as well, because I'm able to maybe get some exercise. I'm lucky that my kids are in daycare or in school in person all day, every day. So we're very fortunate that way. So when I'm home, I can do some of those things without a toddler and a little person sort of underfoot. So we're all balancing it, but you know, I hope that our employers recognize that a culture is more than having everybody together. It's also in how individuals are supported as well.
Yeah.
Megan, is there anything in the chat?
Yeah, so a follow-up to that would be, as you both mentioned, right now, we're all getting flexibility because it's a necessity. How can the attendees on this call advocate for more flexibility and understanding with caregivers, working parents going forward when we do get back to a more normal work environment?
I think that's a great question. And I'll think about in my own experiences, especially when my father was sick. I needed some flexibility, and we were not in a highly flexible workspace at the time. I think the importance, and I talk to a lot of women, especially about understanding your own personal brand capital is really important. And how do you accumulate capital, and when do you harvest? And so for me, I've always thought I want to be the go above person. I'm going to be reliable. I'm going to get my deadlines. I'm going to be the person who goes above and beyond. When work asks for a little bit more, I'm going to give a little bit more without complaint, and accumulate as much personal brand equity as I can, because I also recognized, as a mother of 2 young kids, supporting a dying father, that there are times that I need to harvest and I need to ask. And my ask needs to come with, here's how I'm going to get your needs met, and here's how I can get my needs met. And going back to, what do you want and what do you need? You know, I want to be able to stay here. I don't want to have to take FMLA, and but I need to be with my father right now. And so let's talk about how we can accomplish both of those. I think, though, you have to have some accumulated brand equity prior to the ask, and you have to help think through what are the concerns or challenges and make the ability to get to yes as easy as possible. Because I've thought about it not only from my point of view, but from your point of view too. And I'm helping to craft the solutions. And then the question I'm asking is, what are the concerns that I'm not thinking of? Tell me what you're thinking of that's a concern, so we can help find an answer together. And so I think this is an important time for all employees to really be thinking about how they're demonstrating the success of this model. I feel like within my own organization, it's so funny. I see the way people are stepping up, because I know they're thinking, there's part of this that I want to continue, and I need to proof out this model now, even though technically we're not in proofing out a model mode. But people are working incredibly hard, because I know, as the head of HR for an organization, a conversation is coming my way. And that is going to be, hey, Liz, we're not going back to the way it was before, because this worked really well. I know that's coming, and I know that that's motivating working behaviors and patterns right now. And so if you're thinking, how does this work? I would really be watching for what about this is working, what isn't working? How do I help solve those problems for the organization so that getting to yes is easy, and help be part of creating the solution in a dialogue and understanding the legitimate challenges, of an organization. We do have a critical team here who comes in every day because we have certain core responsibilities to our clients that have to continue to happen. And so I can't have 100% remote workforce, but we're at a 95% remote workforce and we can rotate that 5%. So really thinking about how do I get to a yes answer and proofing out that model in this time. I think that's one of the silver linings of having this time is we can demonstrate up that this can work.
I would agree with that. I sort of was visualizing dropping coins in a bank, right? Taking initiative and being reliable, going above and beyond, being a solution finder, raising your hand when you can. Again, those are sort of part of life by design, right? When you can have those opportunities, or you see those opportunities to make some deposits, you should make them. I've been at Sherwin for 13 years, and this has changed. This last 9 months, for lots of reasons, has changed how I feel about the importance I put on my own happiness and my family's needs as it relates to work. And I think, one of the things I was thinking about is that ability to have those conversations about what you need, but seeing it from the other side is so important. So that you're not asking for a favor, or but what you're doing is coming with solutions that serve everyone's needs, right? And one of the things as I was thinking about just managing everything was how so often with our partners or at work, we just put our heads down and we do it, and we don't talk about what we need from everyone around us. And a couple times I tried telling my husband exactly what I needed from him, and it was amazing. He gave me what I needed when I vocalized it. And so, when we all have people around us who care about us, whether it be a parent, a spouse, a manager, a friend, and when this network of women that we've built today, right? Like talking about what we need is a skill that sort of transcends, that I think women, in my experience, just are not good at, because sometimes it's just easier to do it myself and to know, if you want something done right, we all know who the best person for it to do it is, right? And so talking and being able to vocalize that with your manager is such a good thing. The other thing I was thinking about as you were talking was, we have to be more intentional sometimes with the communication during this time, because we're not seeing each other, right? Megan is on my team. Sometimes I'll think, gosh, when was the last time I talked to her? When I'm used to being able to literally yell where she's sitting right now, things. And then I remember, well, gosh, my manager doesn't know what I'm doing either. So just being intentional about checking in and saying, here's what's going on. What do you need from me? How can I help? How are you doing? I think that, as humans, checking in with each other has become more important, because, this is sort of a daily or hourly shifting situation. And, we are all, I think everyone knows someone who has been sick or has been affected in profound ways by this situation. And so, just being intentional, even though we are remote, by having that human contact is so important on so many levels.
So Maria, question for you, and I'm seeing a little bit of talk about supporting mental health and wellness, and you can find so many things on what self-care means today. How do you take care of yourself? How do you keep your bucket full so you can fill others?
So I have, although I say yes a lot, I say no sometimes. I do little things. The little things that I do are when someone puts an hour meeting on my calendar, I counter it back for a half hour. Because very few things in life need a whole hour conversation. It's amazing. We still get it done. I make sure I move every day. So right before this call, I knew that my day was going to be completely full. So I went on a 15-minute walk. That was that sort of, I know myself that that's enough for me to kind of just clear my mind and take a deep breath. When I'm at home, that's exactly how long it takes me to sort of walk around the block. So for me, it's a lot about sort of moving my body. And when I'm feeling very anxious, I can usually check in and say, oh, you haven't moved in a couple of days, probably what's going on. And then, the other thing I would say is, while working at home has a lot of benefits for a mom of young kids, there is that sort of lack of separation sometimes that happens. And so on the weekends in general, when I shut down on Friday, I try to keep shut down until maybe Sunday night, so that I at least get a good chunk of time that I'm away from it, and that I can be. I feel like sometimes, I'm sure many of you have experienced this as well. I've got the laptop next to the stove, and I'm like cooking while I'm, returning emails in that like time between bus pickup and bath time, and it doesn't feel good. But I know that I'm not going to do that every day, right? And so that time where my laptop is closed for a couple of days straight helps me a ton, and it gives me some energy to know that those frenetic days also come with the balance of the days that it's totally off. And for me that works.
Awesome. For me, I'm a morning person. Like, I am a natural early riser. Like, I think 10 p.m. is a ridiculous hour to be doing anything, but you want to have a cup of coffee at 5 a.m. I'm your girl. And I do, I don't know that I could lay in bed if I tried, but I really enjoy from 5 to 6, my house is generally quiet, and that is my time. This year, I'm an audiobook listener, and I do that while I walk. I feel like it's a real twofer. And a great book with a slightly obscene title. So there is a book that I listened to this year called Buy Yourself the Effin' Lilies. And especially, it's written by a woman who's in her late 20s, early 30s. And so it's not going to get the mom pieces in it. And there's a part of me, I was thinking maybe this is for a younger audience, but this woman is wise beyond her years. She was a producer at Comedy Central, and realized that her life was a mess. And the focus of the book is really actions that you can take for meaningful self-care. Like, self-care is not just light a candle and drink some tea and bam, you're Beyonce. I got a thing for Beyonce. And one of the things that I took from this book was journaling in the morning, and really, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about this, really letting my honest self come out on the pages. And it's funny because for a long time I've heard people talk about journaling, and my thought was like, my God, what if somebody read it? Like, I kind of have 13-year-old locked up diary girl images of this. And it kind of hit me this year that, so what if someone reads it? This is me. This is what I'm really thinking. This is what I'm really feeling. And if I can't look at that woman, I can't expect anyone else to either. And this time from 5 to 6 a.m., writing kind of stream of conscious what's on my mind has helped me get a lot closer to who I really am, like what I really value. And there's things, I've always been quiet on controversial issues, for example. And you know what, I felt strongly about some of the issues that occurred this summer with George Floyd, some of the issues with the state of our nation and our election. And normally I would never say anything about this because it's taboo. It might hurt somebody's feelings. Somebody might not feel the same way. And this kind of practice helped me to say, but this is how I'm really feeling. This is who I really am. And, maybe when now in this 4th decade of my life, I finally feel more comfortable owning some of these thoughts and being a little bit more real. And I feel like one of the best steps of self-care that I've taken this year is taking the time to really get to the heart of some matters for myself and be more comfortable saying, I can't continue to bend myself into a pretzel to make you more comfortable. It doesn't mean we have to argue about it. It doesn't have to be unpleasant in any way, but I can stand in my space and you can stand in your space, and those spaces can live together. And so it's a book with a great title. If you're anti-profanity, please do not read this book. It made it in the title. It's all throughout the book. I'm a big fan of the F word. And so it really works for me. But she is the narrator in the audiobook. So I highly recommend that too for download, walk, get it all. But it's been a little gem that I found this year.
That's a great suggestion. I am also a fan of audiobooks. I find because I subscribe to the pretty much the same waking hours that you have. And so if I get in bed with a book, because that would be the only time that could reasonably happen at like 9 p.m. after everybody goes to bed, I fall asleep like within the first like 3 pages. So listening to books has been really great. And so funny, this is not planned, but my current book is Keep Moving by Maggie Smith. If anybody has read that, it's sort of selection of quotes and ideas and her reflections on them, and it's short. But it's about getting through. It's about keep going. And we all need a little bit of that no matter what we're dealing with. I feel strongly that I want to end a couple minutes early so that I know that people are like back to back on calls these days. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to CSU for having us. Thanks to Liz, my friend, for joining us. Thanks to Elizabeth for introducing us. It was so wonderful to see you all today. I hope that it was an hour well spent. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. Good luck with everything. I hope you stay healthy and safe. And Elizabeth from CSU, anything before we sign off?
Thank you, everybody, just to reiterate for coming. And I agree, it flew. All of a sudden, it's been an hour, and usually on a Zoom call, I'm not saying that. So thank you, everybody, for coming. We have more of these coming up. Please check our website, csualumni.com. And everybody go on to hopefully have a great day. And thank you so much to all our hosts.
Heather Casimir, good to see you. All right. Sherwin friends, thanks for being here. You guys stay well.